All right, welcome in another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. Tonight is our last episode of the crossover series with the Blazing Pucks talking about the Canucks tonight. So get in the chat, like and subscribe, and you know what to do. Let's go. That intro was brought to you by the band Ezera. Their new single out is Blind, out now wherever you listen to music. Boys, welcome into Hockey Royalty. How you guys doing?
Thanks for having us. Doing pretty good.
Thank you. Vibing and surviving, my friend. That's my motto.
There we go. There we go. Sorry, I had to, we had to put that legendary hit from Dustin Brown in the video, but
legendary is the key word there, my friend. Legendary is the key word.
Straight up.
It's been a while, but for the Kings, all we're doing is living in memories with the Cups being over a decade ago. We're trying to get back there, and obviously the Canucks are trying to get back there too with the successful season last year. I think it kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of fans, maybe that weren't in Vancouver or didn't follow the team, that a lot kind of had to happen to get there. It kind of took me off guard. Maybe not for you guys, but what was the vibe going into last season, and then how did that kind of gestate into what we saw from the Canucks?
Well, that's a great question. And believe it or not, it's not just you guys that are not Canucks fans that it took everybody by storm. I mean, here we were like, do we still count moral victories? Are we still looking to have an above average power play? Maybe they can squeak into a wild card spot. Like there wasn't a very high bar before the ceiling, right? And then obviously the season started, and Victor can attest to this. Us Canucks fans, we're used to a lot of disappointment. You're saying you're living in memories. We're trying to make those memories still because we got to get a cup, right?
And run away from trauma at the same time.
Yeah, it's a really, really weird cycle. That's for sure. So so going into that, and I mean, just the flip side of it was just incredible.
So Victor, I mean, when in the season did it kind of flip for you in the fact that, hey, maybe we might got something here?
Well, I'll be pretty honest. It took till about, I'd say, February for me personally to be like, okay, you know what? Maybe unclench the cheeks a little bit here and believe that we got something that we're going. Like, Carm said, this Canucks fan base has gone through a lot and probably are one of the most emotionally irrational fan bases out there. So, when we were seeing good things coming, it's like, this is too good to be true. When's it gonna fall? But yeah, it honestly took till February for me, around that period of time where I'm like, okay, you know what? Like we could do something here. We're not just going off a little miracle streak here. Like we're building something that seems pretty consistent. So yeah, but that's just me. I'm sure some fans got it earlier. Other fans maybe are still doubters. Who knows, right?
What was that? It was that New York road trip, I think, that really did it for us Canucks fans, right? That one where they put the lotto line, which for us here in Vancouver, our lottery is called 649. So we put Petr 6, Pettersson 40, and then Miller 9. We put that as the line. And they just tore it up through there. So I think that's what you're talking about, right, Victor?
Yeah, roughly around there.
Yeah, I was around there. Makes sense.
Well, so with great results comes even further expectations in the following season. I know for the Kings, we signed Danault, we signed Victor Arvidsson, kind of got a little bit of life going on there, and we weren't just a bottom feeder anymore. And we're like, okay, like where does this go here? Like we saw pivotal stuff from Velarde, and Quentin Byfield's actually gonna get some time, and so like there was pieces there, and fans started seeing the possibilities of making playoffs. And then we take, that season we take Edmonton to 7 games. And we're like, okay, well, we exceeded expectations, and then we almost pushed this team without even Drew Doughty. Next year was like, okay, now we got to get to the second round and the third round. So what is that like for Vancouver fans right now? What are the expectations going into the season?
I'll let you take this one, Victor.
You want me to take this one? All
yeah,
right,
you take this one.
Okay, well, you know what? Clearly, as you have it in the caption here, embrace the Canuck. Coming from Rick Tocchet, embrace the hard, which, got to stay hard. The expectations clearly are going to be, elevated a bit. It's crazy how 1 year can really make a difference in, the team. And with that, though, there is some expectations as the fan base. We've already been primed for a while that the core we were building with Pedersen, Hughes, Miller, Besser was eventually going to be the core that we were going to double down on and lead us to those Stanley Cup aspirations. So I think now we're just at that stage where it's like, okay, cool, let's shoot for that. At the very least, though, I don't know about you, Carm. I'd like to see us at least make the Western Conference Finals. Where anything goes. I don't know about you, Carm. Where are your expectations at?
I mean, I am the same as you, right? Like Rick Tocchet has said it in numerous of his interviews, like this is not going to be it's not going to be the same season as last season, right? Like guys are going to come into our barn and they're going to come and they're going to bring their A game, right? Because they're considered one of the top tier teams. So it's going to be a tougher year for the Canucks. And I'm fully expecting them to rise to the occasion, right? There's a lot to be excited about when it comes with the coaching staff here. I mean, when you got a guy like Tocchet, you got Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar behind your bench, right? These guys are ready to get them ready to go. So I'm expecting, game 7 of the second round is still, I don't want to say it's good because it's still, there's still no hardware to show for it. But I mean, considering where we were predicting them to be, I'm hoping for, the same, if not better.
That's fair enough. And I know a lot of fans feel that way, but sometimes media, especially in Canada, can be when the expectations rise, the questions get harder, the expectations get harder, and then there's more critical nature with regards to their covering of the team. LA is known to kind of be a little bit more of a lax market when it comes to media. I know us at Hockey Royalty try to be fair and critical when it's due, but there's a lot more of that style of media within the bigger markets and in the Canadian markets. What was that like when they were making the playoffs all the time, with the Sedin brothers, and what will that be like this year when expectations are higher?
Oh man, when the Sedins were in town here, it was electric every single year. I don't know about you, Victor, but I felt like I kind of took that for granted.
I really did.
Right? It was just every year we're making the playoffs, and they got a little bit better each year, and then eventually they went to Game 7 where they laid a goose egg at home, unfortunately, to the Bruins. Mm-hmm. But I'm expecting it to be probably similar to the way it was last year. Maybe it's going to be a little hard to top. I actually went to Game 5 versus Nashville in the first round, and when the Canucks were coming out and they were skating to the to the music in the beginning, I have a video of it on my phone. You can't hear the Jumbotron because all you hear is the crowd. Like it's wild. Like the Canadian market, you said it right. There's a lot of scrutiny and there's a lot of the questions get stupider as well too as they get harder, right? They go along. That's just how it gets with the Canadian market. You have to expect that coming here. But man, when you're a good team and you show up and you deliver, the fans deliver for you too.
So let's get into a big fan favorite and the guy that's been in between the pipes and maybe was a big reason for a lot of the winning last year. Demko is out with an undisclosed injury or unprecedented injury. Like there's really no timetable for his return. I've heard him in the interview say that he really doesn't really know what it is 100% and like the route that he wants to take to combat that. Victor, I mean, is this, as a fan, you got to be like, okay, what's going on? Like, what is our team at this point? And then how does the team look now in between the pipes?
Well, I'll tell you this. It is completely in the Canucks repertoire and luck to have your goalie, your top-notch goalie, by the way, get an injury that no other NHL goaltender has had, get it in a muscle that I'm pretty sure 90% of the hockey world never even heard of. It's called the popliteus muscle, right? And it's supposedly the muscle that's literally responsible for locking and unlocking your knee. And what we know now, well, at least from what I've done with my research, obviously it's a big toll. We are a completely, like, what? Demko has obviously been our savior for the bad years that we've recently experienced for quite some time. If anything, clearly, obviously got overworked. But this team with a healthy Demko is, just has that extra boost that helps us become a lot more effective and deadly from forward, defense, and goalie. But I don't know about you, Carm. I'm actually feeling pretty solid. Like, I hope Demko takes all the time he needs to recover. He's got to play through it. That's the unfortunate part of the injury. But I actually feel pretty good about the Seelovs and Lankinen tandem right now that we got going in.
Oh, man, the Artie party is live in Vancouver right now. Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know what? The Latvian freaking king, he obviously showed up for us when push came to shove of the worst case scenario last year, and he played spectacular for given the experience he has, and if anything, his preseason games look like hasn't skipped a beat. So this could be really good for his development, to get more time playing, obviously give more time for Demko to rest. If push comes to shove where Seelovs gets in his head, because again, he's still young. He's 23, 24. That's pretty young for goalie. We got Kevin Lankinen, who has shown that he's been a really solid backup in the league. So yeah, that's how we're feeling right now from the fan base. Is we want to give Demko our knee or our popolitis muscle more than anything. And, in Seelovs we trust, and Lankinen we root for.
So Carmichael, obviously a team in our division has made use of the LTIR multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Has that been talked about with the Canucks? Is he already on LTIR? What is the kind of the word from the brass about how they're going to approach this?
Yeah, no, that's we all know about Vegas's antics, right? And it seems like they got away with another one. So that's neither here nor there. I'm having a good day. I don't want to ruin it. So with the Canucks, though, I know they are trying to avoid getting deep into LTIR, because now I'm not a cap specialist over here, and I'm not going to pretend to be either. But from what I'm understanding, you can't actually accrue cap space when you're in LTIR. And the Canucks, and Rutherford and Alvin specifically, they're notorious for trying to beef up this team before the playoffs. They want to have that option. So it's part of the reason why they traded Tucker Pullman's contract recently, is so that they don't have to go into the season in LTIR. So I don't think that's something they're discussing, unless something catastrophic happens, which, in Canucks Nation, we are used to that. So who knows? But that's not really being entertained around here.
Well, we'll see how it happens when it comes to the trade deadline, because crazier things have happened in hockey.
That is
crazy. And crazy things can happen to you when you're betting on DraftKings. If you want to roast up a little parlay here, DraftKings is here for you, and the quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck dropping on the 24 and 25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win, or go to DraftKings Sportsbook, select your team, and place your first bet. If I'm cracking open the odds right now, I'm looking at it, and Canucks play the Flames tomorrow night. Over-under is Canucks are favored by 1.5. Over-under is right at 6. Odds are subject to change, so pick whatever one fits your liking. So download DraftKings Sportsbook app now, because if you do, new customers that bet $5 get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you just bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill and Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 age eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. Back, boys. So let's get into the offense. You guys have a lot of big names there, and on the offensive side of the puck, we'll get into the extension first, I guess, with the resurgence of Niels Hoglander, high prospect in their system, gets a 3 years extension. What does that mean from an organizational standpoint, Victor?
It means that Hoglander finally showed up and laid out his big hog and is ready to show us what he's really about. He's at the very least cemented a top 9 role. And obviously, given, if how things pan out in the top 6 as the season goes on, primarily we're looking at Sprong and how he fits with DeBrusque and Petey. You know, he could easily push to just be a cemented top 6 player. But for the organizational standpoint, we have someone who is tenacious. We have someone who goes to the hard, goes for the hard battles. Even though he is undersized, he can get in people's face and he can get under people's skin. And he had his best goal scoring campaign last year with what? It was like 24 goals, I think, and all even strength. So, you know, give him some power play time. If he earns it, he could be a hell of a player for us. So we're happy.
Carmichael, with him having a little breakout with the goals, obviously expectations goes up a little bit more. Do you see in his game a 35 goal scorer?
That's going to depend on his power play time, I think. Right? I think that's going to really play into it. I mean, 24, 25 goals on even strength is pretty great, right? And he scored some awesome goals. The one thing that I am concerned about with Höglander is that, you know, he spent his rookie year with the Canucks, the next year in Abbotsford in the AHL, and last year we brought him back up. So I'm wondering and I'm curious to see if the other teams have a playbook on him and whether or not he's able to elevate his game in response to that. And honestly, how he came in from training camp, it looks like he's at least put in the work to do that. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. That's for sure.
It seems like he's going to have to get power play time. I briefly looked at his stats today. I think he was shot 20% on the ice, which is extremely high. So if that falls down, he's going to have to get more opportunities to kind of level that off there. And I think opportunities comes with, you know, earning that not only now with the cap, but with time on the ice.
Yeah, definitely. Right. You got to earn Tocchet's trust. He's not just going to hand it to you. That's for sure.
So with him being one of the pieces of the top 9, JT Miller has been as advertised, kind of coming into his own. They bring in DeBrusque. How is this offense shaping up? What are the lines looking like to come into camp there, Victor?
Oof. The lines look pretty deep, you know, in the aspect that from line 1 to 4, we have weapons all around. From what I saw on the practice lines that were run today, looks like it'll be Heinen, Miller, Besser, DeBrusque, Petey, and Sprong. I believe the third line is going to be Garland, Höglander, and I think either Ratu or Bluger if he's healthy for opening night. And then or Ratu would then be our 4th center with Sherwood. And I'm forgetting who the last one is. I think it would most likely be Amon. But regardless, we have compared to like how our forward lines have been like from say 2-3 years ago, major improvement. Like really feeling the excitement on just in general with like our forward depth. I don't know. I'm stoked on it. It feels nice. I just want to see it play out, you know, because again, teams can look nice on paper, but you never know how they're going to pan out until the puck drops and they play the match, right?
Yeah, paper looks real nice. I mean, Dubois looked good on paper last year with Kevin Fiala, and that didn't work out. That didn't work out too well, you know. And so it's where it's going to work out. You know, DeBrusque in camp and everything like that may look good, and then you play 4 or 5 games and the line's not working right, and you got to find that right partner and see where all those things handle up. And I think with JT Miller and Brock, you have 2 juggernauts that can score. Obviously, Elias Pettersson is going to be your linchpin of that offense. And then you just got to see where the other pieces trickle in.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really just been the goal for the last few years is finding a competent winger for Petey, right? And finding someone who is maybe a one-shot scorer, which he hasn't necessarily had in his line since he's had Brock Besser on that line. And I mean, Besser having a great year is kind of what went well for the Canucks to have a great season. And that actually leads me into one of my questions for you is what would you say, what do you think has to go well for the Kings in order for them to have a good year?
So the Kings are in a weird situation right now where I think you bring in a different type of identity in the forward group, and then you bring in more of the same in the defensive group with Joel Edmondson. So they had a guy in Andres Englund who's never played a full season. They let him play every single game, and he's a traffic cone out there. And so like they brought him in just to fight. And then they bring in Joel Edmondson because they want to protect Brant Clark, who's your young phenom, but you're paying him $3.85 million when he's not worth that type of money. So it's like they like all the shooters and playmakers on the right side, and then the big defenseman on the left side, and they like to have, you know, their version of balance. But before this season, we were running the 1-3-1, which is boring for everybody. And in that offense, or in that defense or neutral zone, the right defenseman retrieves the puck. Well, then you're putting your defense, your best defenseman to retrieve the puck, but then you're not allowing him to join the rush, right? And so then we have all these traffic cones that are going to be the first one to catch the outlet pass if their forward isn't open. And it really just kind of stifled our transition game. And so now we lose Doughty. We have all these young phenoms and Spence and Clark on the right side. I think Burrows is underrated. So we have a little bit more of the same, but we've changed the structure of our team into a 1-2-2, allowing the defensemen to engage a little bit more. And fans have been clamoring for Spence and Clark to get time. I'm conductor of the Clark train. If you want your ticket, you can come we offer guest passes. But you know, I'm sure the excitement is similar to when you guys got Quinn Hughes. Like the offensive ability is just off the charts. And like you learn to deal with the defensive lapses when they're young, and hopefully he'll grow out of that. But he can't be ignored. I mean, the 2 preseason games they played, he had, I think, 3 assists, and then like he had a couple that should have been put in that weren't. He just sees the ice in such a ridiculous way. So like the team is trying to transition more on the defensive side of the puck, but then they bring in Fogle from Edmonton, who I think is very underrated, but can get some speed to pair with Byfield and Fiala. And then they also bring in some grit in Tanner Jeannot, which the team needs. And I think there was a lot of times last year where our team didn't really stand up for each other. So like they would get hit, and then it would just kind of be John, and that would be it. And all of us at Hockey Royalty don't believe in just let's put a fighter on the ice that can't play hockey. But Tanner Jeannot has scored goals before. It's been a while, but he's still a competent player, and he's going to kind of bring that grit that you can on the ice. So I think the team's kind of trying to transition a little bit. We saw it in practice, the first scrimmage. So the way the Kings do practices is half the team plays, so they scrimmage, team B, and then team B practices, and then all the rest of them practice after that. So, I mean, the first scrimmage, there was people laying each other out. There was a fight in the second scrimmage. So it seemed like a lot more attitude this year. And Doughty even said before his injury, like, we're gonna stand up for each other more. So I think you're gonna see a lot nastier team on the ice. Alex Turcotte is kind of like a little rat out there. You know, he's not really a hitter, but he's going to be a pest for the fourth line centers where we have him slotted in. Tanner Jeannot is going to play with Deneau and Moore. That puck, they're just going to be puck hounds over there. And then the big line that we expect a lot from offensively is that Fiala, Byfield, Fogle line, which is going to have nothing but speed and dynamic playmaking. So there's a little bit of everything here. And with a good meal, you need multiple ingredients.
Absolutely, man. No, and you know, with you mentioning about like a fight breaking out in the second scrimmage there, I mean, just last season for us early, you know, in the season, Garland and Joshua had a fight in practice, and then they became one of the best. Like they had the best chemistry afterwards. So it can definitely work in your favor. I got a question though here. So given that you were breaking it down, you know, out of like the off-season acquisitions that the Kings made, because you know they made quite a few that have, you know, definitely changed the dynamic of the team. Which one are you most excited about to see this season play out?
So Fogle's got to be it, and so the goal of the team has got to get Quinton Byfield to be the number 2 and the heir apparent to Anze Kopitar. Mm-hmm. And so last year he was playing on the wing with the first line, kind of learning. And if you I think it was about a year ago right now, PDO Cast came out with a thing only on Quinton Byfield. And for all you Canucks fans, go out there and just listen to that, because if you're going to be playing the Kings, just watch how he maneuvers and everything like that. And his board game is ridiculous. So he's finally grown into his size, or learning how to skate with it. He's learning how to maneuver, use the short stick. So his game on the wall is elite level. And now it's trying to use that to transfer into more of a rush and carrying a line rather than being a supplement for the 40-goal scorer, Adrian Kempe, and one of the greatest kings of all time, Anze Kopitar. So now the question is, can he drag this line? Well, I think the identity of this line is going to be get up and go. I mean, Fiala is one of the best skaters on the team. Byfield's one of the best skaters. Fogle can move. This team's going to want to push the pressure. They all are able to hound pucks. They are all able to make plays, and they're all willing to shoot. So I think you're going to have to, as a defense, pick your poison on which one you want to do. And then Byfield is, we have hashtag QBeast is what some of the Kings are using. And he's not afraid to throw the body anymore. Like that was a thing, like, oh man, dude, you're 220 pounds, like lay some wood every once in a while. And like, that was never his game. And we saw it a little bit in scrimmages. We've seen it in the preseason. I think that line is going to be real nasty. And I have a feeling that we're going to see I think Fiala will be a point per game player, and I think Byfield will be pushing off that line. So Fogle will be my answer, only because they're trying to figure out the next wave. And I think Fogle can hang with Fiala and Byfield on that. And as soon as Byfield's ready to take those first line minutes where he's working 25 minutes a night, I think Fogle will be replaced by Adrian Kempe, and that will ultimately be the top line for the Kings.
Yeah, that honestly makes sense. I love to hear that you guys call him the Q Beast out in LA.
We're trying to get that hashtag trending. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Will it be Q versus Q when it comes to Canucks versus Kings at some point? That will be the marketing promo, right?
Yeah, yeah. We'll start it here. Hashtag the battle of the Q.
Quinn and Quinton.
Quinn and Quinton. Yes, yeah, yes. Man. I am curious what your thoughts are, though. Given the amount of heartbreak the Kings have had to go through in the first round the last few years, cascadingly getting, I don't have to sum it up for you Kings fans here.
Worse, yes.
Yeah, exactly, right? How short is Rob Blake's leash these days? Like, are they one bad start away from him, on his derriere?
It's kind of a weird situation because they brought in Hiller to be an assistant coach, and then he was interim, and then they hired him. They said they looked around. Who knows if they really did? I don't know if this is a temporary fix, but you got to assume that if they hire a new GM, Hiller is out too, and that they're going to start fresh, right? So I think how confident the organization feels in Hiller is how they'll feel in Blake. And I think if they did something, it might be a combo firing at that point and kind of just complete slate. If the team doesn't make the playoffs, which is a high possibility because of the fact Doughty's out till probably January, February at the latest. So the things that can go wrong with the Kings, right? The lines don't work. QB is not a point per game player this season. It's taken a little bit longer. The young defensemen that they're counting on to play 20 plus minutes when they've never done so kind of falter. And this team doesn't score a lot of goals. And so that's kind of where the team could be out of the playoffs early and have to play catch up once Doughty gets healthy. If that happens and they miss the playoffs, I think he's out. If they lose in the first round to which last year was the Cup finalists, I don't think that's really a big thing. I think it's a bad taste that they lose to Edmonton again. If they play well, I don't know. I personally think it would be a breath of fresh air if they lose in the first round for the fourth time, just to get a change in there. But the Kings organization has always been loyal to not only players that are current, but ex-players. And I think that it could be something that maybe gives him a little bit more leash, if you will. Because, I mean, if you wanted to nitpick, you could be like, oh, well, the first year we didn't have Doughty and we took him to 7 games, moral victory. And then second year, well, we played well and we had some games get away from us, but we were within striking distance a lot of times. So I think more victories are out. Last year, with expectations were second round, they didn't get there. I think if they were a Canadian market or if they were a higher level market, it might have been done already. So it's kind of like a half-ass answer. But let's just say if they miss the playoffs, I think he's out. If they do well and they get beat by a good team, I think it's going to be he might get another year. And if he makes it past the first round, I think he'll be fine.
Gotcha.
Seems pretty fair.
Yeah, that's about kind of what we were thinking too.
So with the blue line, if we're going to have this Q on Q battle, the blue line is hedged up by Mr. Hughes, video game extraordinaire, but it goes down from there in kind of a cascading, just like any team. But the Athletic came out and said you guys were a tier 2 defense. And for them, if you read that article, it said that means you guys have high end talent at the top, but lack depth in the third pair. Is that a fair assessment? How do you guys view the blue line, Carmichael?
I think that's very fair, right? I mean, we have the top pair in Hughes and Hronek. It really, maybe I'll modify my answer. It's going to depend on how they actually deploy these guys within the season, right? There's a lot of talk going around Canucks Nation here, and I think a lot of the coaching staff wants to see Hronek man his own line, or his own pairing, I should say, right? Because a lot of the times he'll get the puck, and I'm not sure if the Kings fans know this, but the guy's got a hell of a shot. Like he can clap it from that blue line, but a lot of the times he finds himself deferring to Quinn Hughes or giving it back to him because, I mean, he's Quinn Hughes, right? But Hronek has a lot to give. So if they stick with the current pairing, I'm not going to say it's bad, but they do lack depth, right? And the good thing that they do have in their corner is they got Hughes, Hronek, and then after that, there's 4 trees. Like, they're all just monsters. Or like Tyler Myers, I think, is the smallest guy, right? And no, there's no way. But he's 6'8". You got Susie at 6'5", Juleson 6'2", but Juleson will be kind of like the extra defenseman. Hronek himself 6 as well. And then you got Desharnais 6'7" and 6'4" for Derek Forbert. So similar to how you guys like the big guys on the left side, we just like our big defensemen. But that being said, I do think that Adam Foote has his work cut out ahead of him for sure.
It seems like kind of like the dilemma that Edmonton had for a long time with McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, they always had him on the same line because they wanted that juggernaut line, but their team works so much better when he is running his own line. But then you saw it a couple times in the playoffs when they played us, like if they late in the game, if they needed a goal or if they needed something, they put them back together because, they needed to make something happen. I wonder if that's something that the Canucks could try, to where they split them up for most of the game. And if it comes down to pressure time, you guys need a goal, you put your 2 best players together again. They're used to playing with each other, and try to push something forward that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that being out of the realm of possibilities, especially because it's going to kind of screw up the other team. They're expecting, Hughes and Desharnais, but then they get Hughes, Hronek for this one draw, and the puck's in the back of their net now,
The thing, too, is that even in preseason, they have experimented with Hronek running his own line. Like, I don't think we even saw Hughes and Hronek in any preseason games together. But yeah, honestly, in the end, D-wise, Myers and Susie are our second pairing. And in an ideal world, we'd prefer to have them as our third, right? There's possibility and potential with Desharnais. I heard from a lot of Edmonton media people that they were actually really high on him. He's still only 24, being a big body, 6'7", but he has the tools and skills that potentially, if Adam Foote and Rick Tocchet, the coaching staff, can bring the best out in him, he could potentially be able to, be a pleasant top 4 surprise. And
not to pour water on your cake, but he was horrible. He was horrible versus the Kings.
I know he was. That's what I'm saying.
And he was taken out of multiple games. My co-host Joe, he is like an addition by subtraction for Edmonton. That's how he feels about him, and that's how he feels about CC. So
yeah,
hey, a new area and a new outlook on life has changed careers, but sometimes you are the player that you are.
Yeah, facts. One thing though, I will at least bank a little bit of faith and hope. We felt so strongly against Tyler Myers for so many years for the same type of reasons, where we were a better team with that fucking chaotic giraffe off the ice. And yet,
is that what you guys called him, the chaotic giraffe?
Yeah, we call him the chaotic giraffe, dude. That's
among other things.
Yeah. It's hilarious, but he gained that nickname because of how poor he played for so many years under us. And in his final season, or what was supposed to be his contract, once Rick Tocchet came in, he became a completely different player with the structure that Rick Tocchet implemented, the coaching staff. And if anything, he was our third best defenseman, in my opinion, behind Hronek last year. Actually, no, fourth, because Zadorov was pretty awesome once we got him. So I'll give him shout out to that. But if he could do that with Tyler Myers, which I kid you not, as a fan base, I don't know what you call him. This is the last player I ever thought would have a bump. This is the last player I ever thought we wouldn't even be complaining about. Because genuinely, like we said, get him off the ice. We were a better team with that. We were a better team without Tyler Myers on there, and it's now 180. So I don't mind you throwing water on the cake because, yeah, Desharnais, horrible when it came to the playoffs. And I was happy for that as a Canucks fan because he was an Oiler. But now we got to put some faith in our boy. He's repping our colors. He's repping our jersey. So I think Talkie could do something, but maybe not to the ceiling that I'm hoping for. But we'll see, right?
Well, it has a lot to do. And I want to point out, too, how in a Canadian market, Tyler Myers went from when the hell does this guy's contract end to I hope we actually re-sign him again. So I to piggyback off of what you were saying there, Victor, I agree. I mean, if there's any coaching staff that I have faith in that's going to get it done, it's probably Foote, Gonchar, and Tocchet. But you are right. I mean, he was healthy scratched in very important games for the Oilers.
Yeah. It's so funny how fans like hate on a player for like it seemed like we went through this with Sean Durzi. And like we needed help on the left side. So he was a righty that played left and he put up a good amount of points, but he'd have these brain lapses where like either he would like miss a pass completely and it would lead to a goal or stuff like that. And we would fans started saying, "Hey, we got Durzi again." And then they would call him Lurzy, like loser, you know, like, really? And we're like, okay, great. We traded him away for a 2nd round pick and everybody was like happy about it. And I'm like, dude, the guy's like a 60-point or 50-point player on Utah now. Like he's their number 1 defenseman. He signed for like $5.5 million, I think, or $6 million. And it's just crazy how like when you are given a different opportunity and a coaching staff believes in you, like you're something different and fans just kind of jump on you for no reason. Like it's so crazy how like the Kings were like, oh man, we have so much right depth. We have Doughty, we have Brock Faber, we have, you know, Sean Durzi, we have Brant Clark, we have Jordan Spence. And we're like, we have all these riches and who cares if they leave and this kind of stuff. And now, you know, we got Kyle Burrows playing for us this year. So, you know, it goes from good to bad. And actually, Russell Morgan likes him. So let me ask you that then. Yeah, ex-Canuck. What was the opinion of Kyle Burrows? I know he kind of got thrown to the wayside in San Jose last year, but what was your opinion of Kyle Burrows and what can Kings fans kind of expect from him? He's playing with Vladislav Gavrikov right now in the preseason.
Ooh, that's a good pairing. Sounds like it. I don't know. For me personally, my recollection of Kyle Burrows, you know what? Good defensemen are defensemen where you really don't have to, like, they don't stand out, right? What you want in a regular bottom 4 defenseman is do your job, don't make the mistakes, and, you know, help with the team. I think for the most part, Burrows' time with us, even though he was on some pretty bad teams of the Canucks, did that for the most part. It's just, you know, when he make the mistakes, yeah, they sucked. So I don't know. I think he could elevate if he's playing alongside Gavrikov, and I really like Gavrikov. I think he is an exceptional defenseman that's very underrated. I think, you know, Burrows could definitely catch some of his wind, and they could be a solid pairing. I don't know. What do you think, Carm, about Kyle Burrows? Good old Kyle Burrows.
Good old Kyle Burrows, man. Canucks legend. Let's go. Well, okay, how I feel about a defenseman like Kyle Burrows, Brandon, I'm sure you watch football as well too. You know, when you know that rule, when you don't hear your cornerback's name, that's a good thing. Yeah, it's the same thing for a guy like Burrows, right? Like Victor said, he gets the job done. If you're not hearing his name too often and he's not biffing the puck, he did exactly what he's going to do. But if he's in your bottom pairing, that's probably a good fit.
We want him to be in the bottom pairing with Edmondson. We want Clark to get more ice time. So, but right now they brought in Edmondson to play with Clark, and they're kind of pigeonholing that. So I think the season Burrows is going to start with Gavrikov on the second pair. I think we're not going to have like a really top line where Doughty's playing 25 minutes with Mikey Anderson. I think it's going to be spread across that more. So, you know, Burrows played a lot of minutes for San Jose last year. I think he's going to be comfortable in the top 4. You know, and the players that you don't hear their name and they're just silent and, you know, they play good hockey, like we're fine with that. It's the bottom 4 guys that make mistakes and then they're not offensively talented as well. You know, like, so like they can't make up for it on the offensive side. So I was always fine with Durzi because it was like, okay, he made a defensive mistake, but he might take the puck down the next play and weave through 4 individuals and set somebody up for a goal. So like you take with the good with the bad, but when you get a bottom 4 defenseman who doesn't make any good plays and is bad on the defensive plays, that's kind of where you kind of hedge, you get hedged into a corner. So if you guys are looking for a bottom 4 guy, I hoped and prayed somebody would pick up Jacob Mavara. Like, I don't know what the world doesn't see in him. Like, you never hear his name. You never hear his name in a bad light. And then he constantly makes the good first read, good first pass. And the Kings won't give him a shot. Somebody give this man a shot. Sorry. That just made me a little upset because it reminds me of one of my favorite guys. And his nickname is Tuna because when he came over to the States, he could barely speak English. And so they asked him, like, what is he driving when he was here in an interview? And he couldn't say Tahoe, so he said Tuna. And so everybody calls him Tuna. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome. Who's this player? Sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Jacob Mavara.
Oh, Jacob Mavara.
Yeah, so he was from Sweden. He was a mid-round draft pick, but like, he's a solid guy. He's over 200 pounds, left shot, moves the puck really well, skates just fine. Just doesn't have any offensive acumen, but he's strong on the puck, makes the good first read, doesn't make any mistakes. Like, he could easily be a team's third pair lefty, and like, as a fan base, you wouldn't have to worry about anything. Like, that's why I think a lot of Kings fans are so pissed, because we spent almost $4 million on Edmonton when we had a guy for $800K that could do the same thing.
That's always
no kidding. I mean, he's Swedish. I'm really surprised the Canucks were into him because they love their Swedes over here.
The Canucks love the Swedes, and we love our new sponsor here at THPN in the form of Game Time. So Game Time's our new sponsor here at THPN and at Hockey Royalty. I don't know about you guys, I love hockey season because it's time to get going to games. I know I live in Dallas, and so I don't really get to see much of the Kings, but when they come out here, I enjoy taking the train right up to the arena, getting out, smelling the ice as soon as the door opens, walking out, grabbing the fresh beer. The only way you can do that is with Game Time. Game Time's new feature is called Game Time Picks. That makes getting tickets easy to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals and the great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. So if you're trying to buy a ticket for Thursday night when the LA Kings are playing, talk about how a super deal you can get with Game Time. Because there's other tiers of deals. You can get a super deal. You can get best seats available. You can customize your spot by using what you feel like is best for your game. Do you want to get down close to the ice? You want to get a good price? Everything is available with Game Time. So you can curate your deals to, hey, I want the best seats, or I want the best price, or I want to view where the Kings shoot twice. Everything is available for you on Game Time. So Game Time Picks is priority picks. So curation is easier for you to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. We have all-in pricing, so toggling is featured. You don't want to pick a seat for $59 and then show up to the checkout and you're forking over $400. So no surprise fee at Game Time. Seat views, you get a panoramic view of the arena. How cool is that? So you know exactly what you're getting into. Lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference if the price lowers of your ticket before game time. Your purchase is covered with all the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. So you know what you need to do? Download Game Time app now. Create an account, use code THPN, get 20% off your first purchase. Go see a game. Terms apply again. That's create an account, use THPN, get 20% off. Download Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. It's game time for us. You guys play tomorrow night. We play Thursday. Season expectations are up for most people in the Athletic, Jay Fresh, all this kind of stuff. We talked about it last night for the Kings. For the Canucks, you guys are in the top 5 in every single thing that I have seen. So we already talked about the expectations being high. Where do you guys agree with that they should be a top 5 team in the NHL? Do you guys see them as second in the division? Do you see them in the way they can push for Edmonton? Kind of how do you guys see the points shaking out, Victor?
Well, I think us being ranked second is pretty fair. You know, like I said, it caught a lot of us off guard when we made first last year. And you know what? I honestly know that Edmonton's going to come in with a hunger. They are ready to push and make a statement after the run they had last year. Overall, though, I do believe that fair would be for us second. Ideally, I could see us pulling off first, you know, if things go our way. And the lowest I see with us in the Pacific, if Vegas is, like pulls off something with whatever Vegas does, getting, second we could possibly drop the third. But second is a fair assessment. Also, Gwendolyn's comment about you being a solid promo guy is a good freaking assessment because, dude, yeah, that's the expectation I got to read. Just want to throw that out there.
That was
Connor,
a
what do
great
you
transition.
think?
Like that, the seamless transition was fantastic. I'm taking notes over here, man. That was great.
You're making us up our game now here. Like this is my, we got to throw that in there real quick for you, man.
Yeah,
the expectations are high with our fan base because I mean I've been doing it. I think I've been doing it 2 years now, and we're doing these crossovers. Like, you know, not to toot my own horn, but people have said like, "Hey, man, you do a really good job with that." And I go, "Yeah." I was like, because I get graded by these fans. Like some of the fans that are loyal that come every single week. They'll like, oh, that's an 8.5 out of 10, or you're better than that, or like, so like they'll get on me about it. So it's you know the bar's high, and I look forward to reaching that bar every single night. You know the expectations are there with the Canucks. They need to reach in for their fans. I need to reach in for our fans and hit those juicy intros and crossovers into the ad reads. So I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. It's funny. I try to figure out new ways, and sometimes it's like, where do I sneak that ad read in? Like, where do I like
the segue?
You get it like the segue. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard. And sometimes you're like, dude, I got to suck it up because we're almost closing. And I got to get this ad read in. So like, you just got to kind of do it and take it. Dan P coming in here. If you're listening live, Utah up 2-0, getting it going here with their first game.
It looks like home. Dylan Gunther put that one home.
Is that 2 for him?
No, I think actually Gwendolyn. Thank you. Keller with a goal.
Okay.
The second one.
There you go. So, you guys think you're about first or second. You know, the normal suspects, the Kraken, Kings, and Vegas are the other 3 teams competing for playoff spots. If you were to pick one out of the 3, and, you know, just because you're on our podcast doesn't mean it's pick us. If you were to pick one out of 3 to kind of push you guys for second or maybe first in the conference, where is that pick coming from?
Oof, that's a tough one. I mean, my gut wants to say the Kraken because for whatever reason I'm a little higher on them than I was last year. But the reality is I don't trust Vegas to fall out of a playoff spot right now, especially after they won the cup. So I'm going to go with Vegas.
Yeah, honestly, Vegas. I feel like, you know, if Hurdle has a full healthy season with the Knights as their 2C, I could see them doing a lot of damage. I think Victor Olofsson might get a good bump with a new, change of scenery now that he's with Vegas outside of Buffalo. And yeah, I mean, you really can't question the magic that the Knights pull off sometime. Ideally, though, yeah, it would be nice to see the Kraken push us instead, just because that would create that Pacific Northwest kind of rivalry. I feel like the times that when we do play Seattle, the games I've noticed in preseason, end of last season, it's starting to get a lot more chippier, a lot more aggressive in each other's faces. So if the Kraken can pull that off and have a good season and contend to push us out for like second or first, that would create another great rivalry. And then, I mean, we'd already are pissed off with Edmonton and that rivalry that's clearly now, blooming. So yeah, I honestly, I have the same answers as Karn. I want to see the Kraken contend for us, but I think it's going to be Vegas.
That means you're backhanding me here and saying we're fifth. What's going on, fellas? I thought we were friends.
I thought you gave us a third player, man.
Yeah, you said not to choose you, dude.
Random sewer over here.
Honestly,
yeah.
You know what? I really do like your guys' forward depth over Vegas. And I think that will really give you guys a solid edge as long as everything goes well. And then, yeah, I think if anything, your biggest concern, like that I feel for you guys, is Kemper and seeing how the heck that's going to go out.
Well, I think doing these crossovers and talking to Simba in Vegas and doing with the Kraken and everything like that, it's like all the teams behind Edmonton and Vancouver have like a plot line that if it goes right, the team is going to be competitive, really competitive. If it doesn't, it's going to fall apart. And so I think Kings, Kraken, and Vegas could all finish second, and they could all finish fifth, or maybe even not make the playoffs in the wild card. And like the Kraken really need to get some high end scoring. Like I know McCann has bloomed into that. Will Beniers really take that next level as the 1C? Shane Wright could be a 30-point player. He could be a 65-point player. He was really good for the Firebirds last year in the AHL, and like kind of took the demotion and getting drafted fourth, like as kind of like a chip on the shoulder. And it looks like he's coming back competitive. So that team kind of has like that wide range. Obviously, we've talked about the fault with the Kings and, having Doughty out most of the season. We have a lot of young kids on the blue line, and how do these new pieces fit? And for Vegas, talking to Sinbin Vegas when he came on the pod, it's like you have Hurdle, who they don't really know what kind of Hurdle they're going to get from him. Like, will he be any sort of the dominator type player that they've seen in the past? Because he was absolutely abysmal in the playoffs. Like, he was unusable. And you have, Mark Stone, who's always injured. So is that going to be further injured? Is he going to come back out of the tunnel again? But they lost their main guy. They lost Mr. Vegas in Marchessault, right? Like, he was there from the beginning. He's the number one fan favorite. He was the goal scorer for them. The attitude, the tone setter, the locker room guy. Sinbin said that, like, even after bad games, he'd be in there joking around. Like, it used to be him and Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury, when he was there, like, joking around, playing jokes on people and keeping the room light, even when it was struggling. And now they have a lot of guys in there that in their room that are more serious type players. And so will they kind of implode on themselves if they have a portion of the season where, like, it doesn't go right for a couple of weeks and they get some few injuries, because their depth isn't really that great. They have the number one blue line in the game, so they're always going to be in games because they like to win games 2-1 and whatnot. Well, but will they be able to score enough goals to be up there with the 1s and 2s in that division and make way in the playoffs? That's kind of where his biggest concern is for that team.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable. And obviously staying healthy too. That's obviously going to be a big one, especially with the amount of crap that happened in the preseason.
Well, if you were to give a prediction out of the Western Conference, who are you guys picking to come out of the Western Conference?
Like, all Western, right, including Central as well too?
Yeah.
I got to be honest. For me, like, I love the Canucks, but it's hard not to pick Dallas.
Yeah.
What about
Dallas
yourself? What about yourself? You got to give your opinion on this one too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
what's yours, Brandon?
So I've been in Dallas. I've been here 10 years. They're kind of like they've kind of been my pseudo second team. Go to a fair amount of games, sit up in the upper deck, and the atmosphere is great. I really like the way they play. They got a lot of young talent. They're fun to watch. Now that they're good, the ticket prices are higher, which sucks. But other than that, it's fun to watch hockey. And I think it's like, will they find the way it works? I think the second year for their young talent, Robertson being another year on the team, they're kind of starting to pass the torch on to the next generation with Ben, I think, ending and getting close to the end of his career. So can those young guns really take them to the next level and go? Because, I think Miro Heiskanen is one of the most underrated defensemen in the game. Otter's a great goalie. He's never been clutch really in the playoffs yet on a consistent basis. He hasn't really put together a run. He's had clutch games, but hasn't really put together a run for that team. But I'm with you. I think the Stars are one of the most, I wouldn't say loaded teams, but they're one of the most consistent teams in all assets of the game.
They're well balanced. They got veterans.
Balanced.
They got young talent that are there on a bargain. And I think Wyatt Johnston's going to hit at least, I think he hits a point per game player this year. That guy, I can't stress enough how much I love that guy. He's incredible.
That's eating Taco Bell with white pants spicy right there, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's we do only hot takes over at the Blazing Pucks, man.
Well, Victor, who are you taking out of the West? You taking Dallas too?
Yeah, honestly, in the end, I have been banking on Dallas for quite a bit. I don't have any connection with them, but I definitely just like the players. I think the way how they play as a team is pretty clean cut. Last season, low-key was rooting for them to take the cup, and not necessarily saying that I want them to take the cup this year now that I have faith in our boys. But, they're pretty primed to take the Western Conference as a whole. And I mean, maybe I'm not at point per game player, but I think Wyatt Johnston's going to be a deadly assassin for them on the offense. Robo, I hope he gets to 50 goals like this season. Not just because I picked him for fantasy, but genuinely, I like his playing style. He's a sniper when he's on his game. And I think Hintz is also really, as you mentioned, Heiskanen being underrated. number one D-man out there. I think Hintz is also an underrated 1C out there. You just got to stay healthy. That's it.
Well, boys, it's been a great time having you on. Why don't you plug yourselves a little bit? Tell our fans where they can find you and follow you on Twitter. Obviously, we're going to be playing each other this year. So if they need any Canucks hot takes, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find us both on Instagram and Twitter at the Blazing Pucks.
All right, and you guys on YouTube as well? Or are you guys going to be starting that this season?
Yeah, we'll be getting into it very soon. Yes.
Yeah, step by step. You know, we're two tradesmen right now doing this on the side out of passion and joy. But yeah, honestly, how can we not want to get on YouTube? This is actually a great experience. Pavelski did deserve a cup. I believe that as well, seeing in the comments there.
Anybody but the Oilers too, Dan P. You got it right.
Yeah, Dan P., you're a smart man. We like you. And yeah, again, as Carr mentioned, we're on Twitter and Instagram at the Blazing Pucks. Our show comes out every Thursday morning. So tune in, you know, two BC buds, talking smack and having fun. And just want to say as well, Randon, thanks for hosting us. We had a lot of fun doing this. This has been a wonderful experience, man.
No, appreciate you guys coming on. And as you know, all Kings fans, you can follow us here at Hockey Royalty. Our website is hockeyroyalty.com for all the articles that we got coming out. Please follow us this year. We got a lot of good segments coming up. Some giveaways further on in the season. We're going to be doing a live showing, I think, this Saturday on the away game for Boston. So Russell Morgan will be hosting that. All of our Twitter handles are scrolling across the bottom. Please enjoy the fruits of our beautiful sponsors there at DraftKings and Game Time. And as always on this podcast, go Kings go.